Very good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about a new topic. It is about deaf culture and deaf culture syndrome. Can you see the slides? Are they visible?
Yes, sir, we can see them.
Okay. Right. Deaf culture, right? So that is another concept which was coined by uh, father of peace studies, Johann Galtung, right? Earlier in our class, we discussed about cultural violence, right? So, at the same article, it means a research paper which was written by Johann Galtung in 1990. Later part of that article, he is saying that another approach about complete resolution, right? So, according to his words, however, there is another approach to explore the substratum of the culture for its deep cultures, of which there may be several. While talking cultural violence, Professor Galton is talking about deep culture, right? According to his own words, uh, I have sent this article to you, then you can read it by yourself as well. So there is another approach to explore the substratum. Substratum means sub layers of the culture. In culture, we can see sub layers, substratum, strata, right? Stratum, in singular form, stratum of the culture for its deep culture. He put the name to identify them. That's called deep culture, which they may be several. It means when we're going to talk about culture and cultural violence, sometimes we can identify certain things which is very certain things which are very complicated. Apart from that, they are very what's called they're not visible actually. It is very difficult to in discover their nature, right? Uh, so they are in the deep ends of our cultures. So that is why they are called deep cultures, right? On the other hand, according to Galton, deep cultures are, of course, hypothetical. Hypothetical. Hypothetical means they are based on our thoughts. Sometimes they may not visible in practical ground, right? Like deep personality for person, deep personality. So when you're talking about the personality of a person, we can say he has a smart personality, deep personality, and so on. So when you are thinking about smart personality or deep personality, so we have certain assumptions to measure smart personality. Oh, I mean, so pretty. When we see some uh, beautiful thing or beautiful girl. Sometimes we are saying that, oh, you are very pretty today, right? But however, to measure prettiness of someone, we in ourselves we have our own indicators, right? Using those indicators, we are measuring others. After that, we can say, or we like to say, you are so pretty today. He's so smart. He has smart personality, and so on, right? But those indicators are very much hypothetical. They are in our mind. They cannot be measured using scales, right? They cannot uh, be touched because they are not material form. Likewise, according to Professor Galton, deep cultures are of course hypothetical. So when you're talking about deep cultures, so they are in our mind. Sometimes they are not in practice, right? But we would be looking at the roots of the roots, according to Galton. So, to speak, the cultural genetic code that generates cultural elements and reproduce itself through them. What he's saying, we would be looking at the roots of the roots, right? In complete studies, we can normally we are using a diagram to analyze the conflict. It is called conflict tree. Conflict tree. It means when you're going to analyze the conflict or when you're going to identify the conflict, we use the diagram, we use the picture like a tree, right? Using particular tree, we try to understand the conflict. So, what is the nature of tree? Tree has basically two parts. One part is visible part, other part is invisible part, right? Underground part, it means beneath the soil, it is invisible. But upper part, it is visible, most visible, right? Trunk, then the leaves, then also branches, fruits, and everything, they are very visible. Likewise, when you're talking about a conflict, we can see, we can say the some part of the conflict are visible, right? Sometimes we can, I mean, especially behavioral part. If you think about ABC triangle, behavioral part, it is most visible, like trunk, branches, leaves, and fruits, and all these things. So they are very visible. But uh, other part, it is underneath in the soil. So it is it is not visible, right? Because it is on the undergone uh, part. It is consisted of main root. In Sinhala, we are saying mudun mula. Then after certain roots, in addition to that, I mean roots and main root, there are certain roots, sub roots, supportive roots, right? There are many. If you think about coconut tree, we can find very difficult and complicated uh, but complicated group of roots. If you think about mango tree, we can clearly find a main root, other roots and supportive roots, right? So in that way, we can find different type of trees. Likewise, we can find different type of complex, right? But the structure of the roots are different, like mango tree and coconut tree. However, there are roots and sub roots or supportive roots. That's why Professor Galton is saying about we would be looking at the conflict, we would be looking at the roots of the roots. It means we want to look at the roots and sub roots or supportive roots, so to speak, the cultural genetic code. Sometimes, according to his point of view, when we are searching roots of the complete or sub roots of the complete or supportive roots of the complete, we can find certain things. They can be identified, they can be labeled as cultural genetic code. Cultural genetic code, right? Cultural genetic codes. Because they generates cultural elements and reproduces itself through them. Cultural genetic codes helps to generate certain cultural elements. Then cultural genetic codes help to reproduce the cultural elements. It means beyond the cultural elements, we can find cultural genetic code. Actually, they are not something like visible, they are not something like materialistic, they are not something like touchable, right? Cultural genetic code means the name which was kept by the Professor Galton to identify these cultural patterns, right? So deep culture, it is equal to collective subconscious. In our mind, we can find conscious and subconscious things, or I mean matters. Conscious matters and subconscious matters, right? Conscious matters, they are visible and they are very much understandable. We can easily understand whatever the things which are in our mind, especially when they are in our conscious, uh, right, conscious part. But it is very difficult to find some unconscious or subconscious things when they are in our mind. It is very difficult, right? It is very difficult. For example, think about when we think or when we see very delicious, beautiful food, right? What will be happen to our thoughts and tongue? Our thoughts and tongues, they will be get wet to split, right? They get wet. When we see beautiful or tasty food, when we get the smell about tasty food, our tongue and throat, they will get wet. They will be get wet very easily. But sometimes while we are walking on the road, sometimes we may see very ugly and unpleasant things. And at the same time, at a glance, our thoughts and tongue, what will be happen to them? The same way, they will get it. Why is that? When we see the beautiful, tasty food, when we get the beautiful smell of a tasty food, our tongue and thought, they are get wet. In the same way, while we are seeing some unpleasant thing and having very unpleasant uh, smell, the same way our thought and tongues, they are getting wet. What is the reason? When we see two different things, but our organs are reacting in the same way, I think it is very difficult to find the reason because there are something in our subconscious part of our mind. So likewise, when you're talking about our culture, right? Talking about our culture, different cultures are there in Asian culture, I mean Eastern Asian culture, then Chinese culture, Japanese culture, English culture, Australian culture, New Zealand culture, uh, then Fiji culture, then Aborigines culture, right? Then culture, North American culture, hippie culture, then Tanzanian culture, Iranian culture, Arabic culture, right? There are many in the world. There are different cultures. But cultural patterns and cultural practices, they are very different from culture to culture, right? Because people, they construct their culture aligned with their own environment, aligned with their own environment. Sometimes people in the world, they would prefer to eat scorpion, fried scorpions, gonsan, right? Sometimes people on this beautiful earth, they would prefer to eat legs of the fox, gembi kakul. That's their culture. That type of cultures are constructed by the people aligned with their environmental challenges, right? People, those who are in the winter, I mean, Iceland or somewhere else, their culture, their practices are totally different from the others, right? People, those who are in uh, Africa, Latin America, they have their own culture. The people, those who are living in near to Amazon forest, their practices are different. But whatever the culture we are having, we have conscious level and subconscious level as well as unconscious level. Collective subconscious, the words which were produced by the Professor Galton, he used deep culture, the term deep culture, to identify this type of collective subconscious, collective subconscious, right? For example, before pre-COVID-19 corona period, when we are having examination, you are there at the examination hall, right? After just finish your exams, I mean, just finish your writing and handed over your question paper to the invigilators and the supervisors of the examination hall. Then what was you were doing? What were you were doing? You just started to talk with each other. You just started to whisper about your questions and the way of your writing and the way of answers and the deepness of the questions. You just started to whisper with your friends and others. As a group of 50 to 100 people, then they just started to whisper and talk with their friends. They just produced a very big noise. Sometimes you may see the invigilators like us had to announce to be in silent mode, to be silent, right? So that's the way of our mind is working. This written after the examination, all people, that is not consciously, it is in our subconscious. Each and everyone is ready to talk with our friends because for a 3 hour period, 3 hours period, they were there answering their question paper, and also they were compelled to be in silence by the conditions of the exam. For the period of 3 hours, they were in silence. Now they got the freedom. Their subconscious ordered them to talk with their friends. So that's why they started to talk. But the thing is that it is visible there as a group. That's why it is called, that's why I'm thinking to mention it as an example for the collective subconscious. Collective subconscious, right? People, another example, the university students or others, while they are walking on the road, they are very innocent and so smart. They are so very innocent. But when they got the incident, maybe road accident or something like that, then people were there, sometimes picketing or something, another thing is there, road accident or picketing is there. People or university students gathered there as a group, but they are not consciously gathered over there. but unconsciously they were there. Then their collective subconscious is wake enough. Then they started to do certain things. If there's a road accident, there's a road accident, then sometimes they will started to shout, they will started to burn the tires, they will started to do some harmful things to I mean beat the other vehicles, especially buses or something like that, right? uh, Block the roads and so on. So if there's a picketing of these university students, then the police barracks or police people, if they are there blocking the road, then the collective subconscious of the university students, it is awakened and they just started to be aggressive and they started to fight with police uh, group group of policemen. And that's how their collective subconscious is working, because it is in their mind. If there's police blocking their road, we should react them. It is in their mind, right? It is in their culture. It is there in their deep culture, right? That's what is called deep culture. I just wanted to show examples, right? Then Professor Garton is saying that this means deep culture or collective subconscious, that becomes very speculative. It means very hypothetical, or uh, it is in our mind. If it is in our mind, so that is not the problem, or that is not so problematic. That this becomes very speculative is not so problematic. It is on the nature of science to postulate deeper layers, then spelling out implications, testing the hardcore of the theory around ragged age. It is on the nature of the science scene to postulate deeper layers. What he's saying, he's talking about deep culture or collective conscious, collective subconscious. If it is in our mind, not in the practical ground, so according to Professor Galtoon, it is not problematic. But when it comes into practice, or if someone is trying to bring them into practice, then it becomes a problem. They are in our mind, so that is no problem. That's not problematic, right? When it comes into practice, or if someone is there, if he's trying to bring them into practice, so then it becomes a problematic. So that's what Professor Galtoon wanted to highlight. For example, for a very few months ago in Sri Lanka, everyone, you and me, we can see the label or the sticker which is under the words of Sinhalese, right? Sinhalese or Sinhalese, right? So in Sri Lankan context, some group of people, they would like to introduce themselves under that label. They thought that we are having good and purified blood. Likewise, Hitler and fascist Germans thought in before 1945, right? They thought that we are having that type of blood. Therefore, we should have certain kind of characteristics. We had a very glorious history, and we should have certain kind of personal characters. So then it is not a problem because they are in their mind. But then later on, they try to spread this idea to the others. They used different propaganda like sticker campaign, banner campaign, and media campaign to develop to spread their idea. Sometimes they try to use violent method if someone there they did not like to accept it, right? When they try to practice in practical ground, then it becomes a problematic, right? Likewise, each and every culture, they have their own collective subconscious, but while they are in their mind, so then it is not a problem. But when they try to practice it in real ground, I mean, doing certain harmful things or verbal or mental generating physical, verbal, or mental violence to the others, then it becomes very problematic, right? Uh, you can find certain things if you see the uh, political and socio cultural history of the Asian context, and sometimes if you see the political culture of certain area, then you can find this type of things, right? So even in university, we heard that there are many different subcultures, right? When they are in their mind, it's not a problem. But when they try to bring them into practice or practical ground, willingly or unwillingly, or knowingly or unknowingly, by force or peaceful ways, using peaceful ways, then it becomes a problem. Then it becomes a problem, right? So they need to apply certain violence mechanism to establish it, like other type of things, violent methods. They have to apply violent methods to establish certain things. Then it becomes very problematic. According to Galtoon, assumptions at this level of depth, the collective subconscious, are not easily unearthed, not to mention uprooted. It means assumptions at this level, assumptions which are entangled with collective subconscious or deep culture are not easily unearthed. They are not easily discovered because they are covered by certain things. It is very difficult to unearth uh, this type of collective subconscious. It is very difficult to find their roots because they are in very undergone way, very complicated way. They are in different ways, right? It is very difficult to find the roots and root causes of this collective subconscious. However, if you want to have peaceful society and peace culture, if you want to establish, if you want to cultivate peace culture, we try to unearth, we try to discover roots of this collective subconscious, of this collective subconscious, right? Any questions from your side? Can you
No,
understand?
sir.
Can you understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then another words I have taken from Professor Garton's another work in 2002. He did it for the European Council and UN. According to him, but conscious manipulation is the tribal aspect of general idea that there is something underneath. We are more interested in the subconscious aspect, deep test, driving the actors without their conscious awareness because the ideas have become unreflected habits, repressed to so tribal, natural, normal, that they are deeper tests are not worth articulating, too obvious. So if you want to find out roots of these roots, if you want to find out roots of this subconscious, what we want to do, we want to work with them for a long time. We want to investigate their words, their behaviors, their way of living patterns, their writings, their living styles, and everything. It means ethnographic studies and longitudinal studies. Longitudinal studies means studies for a long time, longitudinal studies and ethnographic studies to discover this type of deep culture. At a glance, we cannot do it. I mean, to do a, if you want to understand this subconscious, whatever the things we can do, we just go there, having questionnaire and distributing questionnaire among them and collecting the ideas and views. Uh, then they convert into our questionnaires and we will come back with our questionnaires and we will try to create a database and analyze using these questionnaires within a very short period. the results, or output of this analysis will not bring real sense or real ground reality of that particular collective subconscious or deep culture, because within a very shortened period, using questionnaire and other type of structured methods, it is very difficult to discover the thinking patterns, their way of speaking, their way of uh, behavior, right? It is very difficult to find. If we want to find, we have to very closely investigate, very closely study each and every movement of them. We have to study each and every movement of them. For example, in these days, most of the students, they are doing their first, BA thesis and master's thesis about transgender people, those who are in transgender. So that is another aspect, right? So it is very difficult to find their activities very clearly. So then it requires for a very close investigation about their daily routine. Through that way, the researcher has to follow for a long period of time, studying each and every moment of them. By doing that, the researcher can have good understanding, good output about uh, their activities, right? So when we are thinking about drug dealers or sometimes drug addictors, and also uh, there are certain groups in our society, uh, they are living with certain complicated situations and conflicts. As students of peace and conflict studies, when you're going to investigate, uh, when you're going to study about them or socio-cultural or political problem of them, we have to be close very carefully. Otherwise, it is very difficult to discover the real factors or root causes behind this collective subconscious. It requires certain qualitative techniques, specific research methods or methodologies to get real output, right? So that's what Professor Galton is saying. Then he said that ABC triangle can be applied to investigate, to study deep culture or collective conscious. According to his point of view, above conflicts have been analyzed in terms of three components as an ABC triangle. When conflicts are at their worst, with deep, interactable contradictions and hatred and violence all over, then there are causal follows in all directions. What he's saying, according to his point of view, Professor Cartoon, ABC triangle, which was coined by himself, it was initiated by himself, can be applied to analyze this collective subconscious or deep culture. why attitudes, behavior, and contradiction, they are followed by one. So one A is coming, A is following others too, then C is following others too, and likewise, right? That formula or diagram can be applied, though it is very deep, to investigate collective subconscious. Then, then it becomes deep culture, deep attitudes, deep behavior, deep contradictions. What we are now saying is that there is a deep layer to the ABC triangle. We could call it deep attitudes, deep behavior, deep contradiction, as Professor Galton very clearly proclaimed in 2002, right? Though it is very deep, a deep culture, we can apply it. We can apply ABC triangle to study a deep culture, collective subconscious of the people. Then it becomes deep attitudes, deep behavior, deep contradictions. Right? This is the concept of deep culture, which was introduced by Professor Johann Galton in 1990, and later on he developed it in 2002. Right? The main thing is, when we want to study deep culture or collective subconscious, it is very difficult, but it can be done if we apply ABC triangle and very sound qualitative research methodologies and research methods like ethnographic research method and longitudinal research method, right? So when you come into fourth year or third year, you can learn about research methodology, but there are many books available in our library and also in the internet. Then you, if you like to read them, you can read and get understanding about what is research methodology and what is research methods. If you would like to study it in advance, you can do it. If you find any difficulty or any difficult words or any difficult concept, you can consult us any moment. So we are in here to help you. So each and every time we are committed to help you, right? So we want to develop you as a very good product of our university as well as our nation. Because we want to produce you to serve our beautiful country and the beautiful world. So with that mind, now the time is open for you to raise your questions, and you can ask, you can put your clarifications. Anything, Arone, Lakni, from your side? I will send this slide as well, and also put all the videos to YouTube and send the link. Then you can watch them when you have free time, right? Anything from your side? Any questions? Any comments? Anything need to be added? Hello.
No, sir.
We what?
All clear for us, sir.
Okay, then to have more clear understanding, you have to do one thing. You have to select complete. Then you have to apply this concept to to get clear understand about that conflict, right? First you have to select whatever the complicated situation or collective culture, collective subconscious. So then you have to apply this one, then easily you can get clear understanding about this. You have to practice all these things. These are not just theories and concepts. These things are in here not to learn, actually. They should learn to practice. Lakmi?
Okay, we will do it,
Yes.
sir.
Then Aruni, what about from your side?
Okay, sir.
Is it all clear? I mean, is it clear or any doubt, anything? If you have
No, sir.
anything, you can ask. Otherwise, right, you can use WhatsApp group or mobile phone or any time. We are in here to serve you, right? You can utilize our time. You can ask questions. You can read well. You can write well. If you like to read write a newspaper, I mean newspaper article or research paper, you can do it now. If you want to write a book, you can do it now, right? So you cannot wait until third year and fourth year. You can do it. If you do it, I will give so many. I will point out many places to publish them. I will help to publish whatever the writings of you. I will help to publish, whether it is poetry book or whether it is a short story, whether it is novel, whether it is a research paper, or whether it is a test book or something like that, whether it is in Sinhala or English language or in any other language. I will help you to publish it. Right now, you have a good time. You are in your home. You are in more comfortable way than the hostel life, right? According to my point of view. So then you have resources, I mean, internet resources, then you can do it. One day, those things will bring many things, many values for you. When you're going for a interview, then all of your works will be calculated by the interview panel, right? Please do it. Clear, Aruni?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So then, thank you very much for today. We will continue another day, right? Thank you very much for your kind patience. Though it is a poor day, we did our class with the consent of you, right?
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you,
kind
sir.
participation.